We're going to be talking about Elijah tonight, this awesome thing that happened on top of Mount Carmel. And I know pretty much that most of you can talk because I've had conversations with you. So please, let's make this interactive. This is not about, this is not a lecture by any means. People who know me well and people who are here will learn very quickly that I don't know everything. And I love to learn from you guys and things that you will have to say. So appreciate everybody being here. It's good to see so many family members here, and I don't use that word unintentionally. We're all connected through a common air, through the blood of Christ. It connects us all together. So anytime we can get together and encourage one another and learn from one another, I think it's important to take those opportunities and look for ways where we can help and encourage each other. So, Mount Carmel, just some facts about it. The name means vineyard, orchard, or garden. It's mostly known for this showdown between Elijah and the prophets. Elisha, we read, had a home there in 2 Kings 4:25. It's regarded as a holy, beautiful place, fertile, received plenty of rain, which is interesting as we get into this story, this account. It belonged to the Manasseh tribe, the western part of the Manasseh tribe. A lot, as Isaiah characterized it as the splendor of Carmel. God's restoration would be the splendor of Carmel. And Solomon, as he was describing this young lady, said, "Your head crowns you like Carmel." So, guys, if you want to flatter your wife, that's a thing you could use. You could say that your head adorns you or crowns you like Carmel. It's a really, if you have a chance and look up some pictures of Carmel, it's very, very beautiful. This is where it's located, right here. Some other interesting places that we'll look at tonight. The River Kishon is something we'll talk about later. The Jezreel Valley is right here. And Elijah, as we know, is a Tishbite from Tishbe, right here. And there's some other places up there that we'll look at as well. This is present day Carmel. Right here is a monastery that was set up that is believed to be the exact site where this took place. No one really knows that. But right here, you can't see this. It's terrible. Didn't come out too well. This place is called Isfya, Ishfa. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it. But this is the highest point on Mount Carmel. I don't know if this is where Elijah's servant went to look at. We'll talk about that later. But this is the highest point. And if you ever are over here in this place and you're feeling homesick and you want some comforts of home, this right here is a KFC. So you could get the Colonel's spices and herbs if you're over here visiting and you feel sick. This is looking out westward and from the highest point. This is the Mediterranean Sea. It'll kind of bring some things home for me, and hopefully it will for you later on as we get into this account. This is a statue of Elijah slaughtering a prophet at this monastery that was set up on Mount Carmel in present day. This is looking eastward from Mount Carmel. There's the Kishon River right here. That's important to us. And this is the Jezreel Valley. So those things you can see from the top of Mount Carmel. This is a contest that Jason talked about. This is a contest between the prophets of Baal, Elijah, and God. So the people that are involved are God, obviously, Elijah, the Tishbite from Tishbe. 1 Kings 18 is where we're going to be the bulk of the time. So if you want to stay there, that's where we're going to be the entire time. Elijah's servant is involved in here. Ahab, the son of Omri, a commander that became king. We learned about Omri in 1 Kings 16. He did evil, what was evil in the sight of the Lord, more evil than anyone who was before him. He was one of the worst. Not to be outdone by his father, Ahab one-upped him. He did more to provoke the Lord than anybody. He set up the house of Baal, and he made the Asherah. He was one of the worst, which is important. Jezebel is involved in this, which is Ahab's wife. She's a Sidonian princess. Obadiah, the 400 prophets, Obadiah, who was over the household of Ahab, 450 prophets of Baal, and the 400 prophets of Asherah, and obviously the children of Israel. We are in Samaria. That's where Ahab reigned for 22 years, so that's kind of where we start at. As we kind of set the scene here, Elijah enters, and he doesn't enter very smoothly. In Acts 4, when we're introduced to Barnabas, he comes in and he takes his money and he gives his money to the apostles to kind of distribute. He kind of just eases in. Elijah comes in and predicts a drought right off the bat. He says there's going to be no rain and no dew that's going to last for these years. We learn about that in 1 Kings 17:1. Why is this significant? Why is no rain and no dew significant? Does anybody know? What was Baal the god of? Rain god. He was a rain god, yeah. He's known as generally the god of fertility, earth crops, and stuff like that, but he's also the god of weather, rain or dew. So that's very significant. It's like God's going to go after what their God is known for, and he's going to completely take that out of his quiver, his repertoire, so to speak. So that's an interesting thing. But Elijah comes in and he tells them there's going to be no rain, tells Ahab there's going to be no rain and no dew, and then he kind of rabbits. He bounces, right? He goes into hiding. He goes to Zarephath. He's going to go and he's going to stay in this brook of Cherith where the ravens are going to feed him. He's going to stay there for a time till the brook dries up. Then he's going to go to a widow in Zarephath. He's going to stay there for a length of time. This is the Cherith Brook that we talked about just a second ago. This is Zarephath, where Elijah's going to hang out. He's going to split the 3.5 years between these areas right here. So, God was certainly with Elijah. He took care of him. The widow and her son was a beneficiary of Elijah being there. No doubt, God will take care of us, something that we should always keep in mind. But 1 Kings 18:1 is where we're going to start. If someone could read the first 5 verses of 1 Kings 18:1-5, please.
Now it came about after many days, the word of the Lord came to Elijah the 3rd year, saying, Go show yourself to Ahab. I will send rain on the face of the earth. So Elijah went to show himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria. Ahab called Obadiah, who was over the household. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. For it came about that Jezebel destroyed the prophets of the Lord. Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave, provided them with bread and water.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Did I cut you off there, Roger? My bad.
You want to verse 5?
5. I'm sorry. Yes.
Then Ahab said to Obadiah, Go through the land to all the springs of water and to all the valleys. Perhaps we will find grass, keep the horses and mules alive, not have to kill the cattle.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off there. So, 3 years has passed, and we find the Lord is sending Elijah to Ahab. Elijah doesn't ask any questions, does he? The last time he saw Ahab, he told him it wasn't going to rain. Now, for me, the last time I would see somebody and tell them this is going to happen, it's going to devastate your kingdom, I would have some questions about going and talking to this person. But Elijah has enough faith and enough trust in God that he goes and doesn't question, goes without hesitation. Ahab is also having a hard time feeding his stock, feeding his people. You think being a king of a kingdom, he's over the 10 tribes, 10 northern tribes, and being a king, he wouldn't stress about things. You know, so if you get to a certain level, a certain power, you would think nothing can touch you. You know, you're guarded from things that would hurt you. But obviously, this is not the case, because even Ahab is having trouble feeding his stock and everything. So, who is helping Elijah in this account? Obadiah. What do we know about him? Feared the Lord greatly. What was his position? Over the house of Ahab. Isn't that interesting? We got a one who's a worshiper of false gods. We have a God-fearing man over his house. You think that position was an easy one to obtain for Obadiah? I don't know. Probably not. But do we know anybody else that was over somebody's house, being a God-fearing person? Joseph. Very good. Someone turn to Genesis 39:9 and read the last part of that verse. Please.
No one greater nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
Thank you, Miss Rita. Yes, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Joseph feared God. Obadiah feared God. What better people to have in your household than someone who fears God? So what's a lesson for us there? Should our situations direct our behavior? Shouldn't. When I can't think of his name, he had a gospel meeting here. Edwin Crozier, yes. Edwin Crozier gave a lesson about Joseph and how he was in the house of Potiphar and he continued to do the right thing no matter where he was at. He always did the right thing. So what better people to have in over your affairs than someone who fears God, who's not trying to do the right thing to you. Obviously they are, but the biggest thing is they're doing the right thing because that's what God expects of them to do. So that's a lesson for us to kind of have in the back of our minds. Obadiah hid 100 prophets in caves and he fed them with water to save them from Jezebel. Jezebel went on this killing spree and was killing the prophets of God. He is sent in one direction to look for grass, while Ahab is sent in the other one to look for brooks and grass to feed the livestock. If someone could any questions or comments so far? Raise your hand, interrupt me. If someone could read 7 through 16 of 1 Kings 18, please.
And as Obadiah was on the way, behold, Elijah met him. Obadiah recognized him and fell on his face and said, Is it you, my lord Elijah? And he answered him, It is I. Go and tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And he said, How have I sinned, that you would give your servant into the hand of Ahab to kill me? As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my Lord has not sent to seek you. And when they would say, He is not here, he would take an oath of the kingdom or nation that they had not found you. And now you say, Go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And as soon as I have gone from you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you, I know not where. And so, when I come and tell Ahab, he cannot find you, he will kill me. Although I, your servant, have feared the Lord from my youth. Has it not been told, my Lord, what I did when Jezebel killed the prophets of the Lord, how I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets by 50s in a cave, and fed them with bread and water? And now you say, Go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he will kill me. Elijah said, As the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself to him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah.
Thank you. So Obadiah meets him. I don't know how he recognized him, Elijah. I don't know if he was there when Elijah told Ahab that there was not going to be any rain for a while, or if during the course of this 3.5-year period, Ahab has been lamenting about this thing, and however it was, he recognized, Obadiah or Elijah, and fell on his face. Elijah says, "It's me. Go tell God. Go tell your master that I'm here. Elijah is here. How have I sinned? What have I done to you?" What's Obadiah been doing all this time? What's Ahab been doing all this time? Has he been looking for Elijah? Yeah. For 3.5 years, every kingdom he's gone to, he's looking for Elijah. When he can't find him, he makes the kingdom take an oath that he is not here. He says, when I see you, here's what's going to happen to you. You're going to leave, and I'm going to tell Ahab that I've seen you, and he's going to kill me. Do you not know? I don't know if you know that I've been hiding these 100 prophets and feeding them. It's not going to go well for me. This is going to be a bad situation for me if I tell him that I've seen you, and you're nowhere to be found. So what's Elijah do to kind of reassure Obadiah what's going to take place?
He's going to show himself.
Yep. He's going to show himself. This is going to happen. I'm going to meet Ahab. Don't stress. So Obadiah tells him that he's seen Elijah. Okay, 7 through 19, someone please.
Happened when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said to him, "Is that you, O troubler of Israel?" He answered, "I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house have, in that you have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and have followed the Baal. Now therefore send and gather all Israel to me at Mount Carmel, the 450 prophets of Baal, and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table."
Thank you. Troubler of Israel. That is not a small accusation. Do we know anybody else that's been given that title? Anybody that you can recall off the top of your head?
Apostles were accused of having turned the world upside down.
Yeah. I didn't think about those guys. These are two Old Testament characters that I've looked up here. So in Joshua 6, when they were taking over Jericho, what did Joshua tell the people? Joshua 6:18. The spoils of Jericho, were they supposed to take them, or what were they supposed to do with them? Supposed to destroy them, right? Or they're going to cause a lot of issues. Joshua 6:18, keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you devote to them, you take any devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction and bring trouble upon it. What happened? Somebody took something. Who was it? Achan. Achan in 1 Chronicles 2, the son of Carmel, Achan, the troubler of Israel, who broke faith in the matter of the devoted things. Also, so as a result, Joshua brings Achan and his family down to and slaughters them. Why'd you bring trouble on us? The Lord brings trouble on you today. What was his fate? All of Israel stoned him with stones and burned his entire family. There's another person that was called kind of a troubler of Israel. He troubled the land. Who's Jonathan's father? First king of Israel, Saul. Yeah, when Jonathan said, my father has troubled the land, he made this rash vow that no one was supposed to eat until he was avenged. And Jonathan takes some honey and eats it. So, he was considered a troubler of Israel. So, not a small accusation. The people who have given this title were very, not like calling somebody a knucklehead. It was a pretty big deal. You, the troubler of Israel, he's laying the blame at Elijah's feet. There's no blame. Ahab does not blame his God or have any confidence in his God. What's going on here? I have not troubled Israel, but you have, and your father's house, because you have abandoned the commandments of the Lord and followed the Baals. I was looking at this, somebody gave a lesson on this, and he said, but God's people are always ridiculed and outnumbered. The world will think that the followers of God are the problem, when in fact, the people who reject the Lord are the reasons for all of society's problems. Why do God-fearing people or God himself get blamed for how the world is? Why do you think that's the case?
Because they expose sin.
They expose sin. Yeah, they expose sin. That's really good. We expose sin, and we try to do what's right, and sometimes society doesn't think that the Bible is right, so we get blamed for all the things that are going on, or God gets blamed for all the things that are going on. In terms of leadership, where do true leaders lay the blame? Themselves, yeah. Accountability is a big trait that leaders have. This is my fault this is happening. That's not just specific to being a king. That's being a father. That's being a leader in businesses, in a church, and so many situations where it's important to be accountable for things. So that's where a true leader lays the blame. They always take accountability for the things that are going wrong. So Elijah says, gather all the people at Mount Carmel, Israel, 400 prophets of Baal, 450 prophets of Baal, and the 400 prophets of Asherah. So if someone could read 20 through 29, please.
So Ahab sent to all the people of Israel and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. Elijah came near to all the people and said, how long will you go limping between two different opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. The people did not answer him a word. Elijah said to the people, even I only, am like the prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let 2 bulls be given to us, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood, and put no fire to it. You call upon the name of your God, and I will call upon the name of the Lord. And the God who answers by fire, he is God. And all the people answered, it is well spoken. And Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose for yourselves 1 bull, and prepare it first. You are many, and call upon the name of your God, but put no fire to it. They took the bull that was given them, and they prepared it, and called upon the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, O Baal, answer us. But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they limped around the altar that they had made. And at noon Elijah mocked them, saying, cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is musing, or he is relieving himself, or he is on a journey. Perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened. And they cried aloud, and they cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances, until the blood gushed out upon them. As midday passed, they raved on until the time of the offering of the oblation. There was no voice, no one answered, no one paid attention.
Elijah says to all the people, he gathers them there, and he says, how long will you go limping between two different opinions? He tells them to choose. There's some other people in another character in the Old Testament who also told some people to choose, didn't he? If someone could turn to Joshua 4:24-15 and read that verse, please.
And if it is disagreeable in your sight to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves today whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served, which were beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Choose a path. Choose a path and walk it. If it's the Lord God, then follow him wholeheartedly. If it's Baal, then follow him. That was his message to them. Are there things that we have in our lives that can hinder us from choosing, that keep us from limping along? Yeah. What are some things that can pull us away from being fully trusting in the true God? Anything come to mind? Trials and tribulations. That's good. False teachings, absolutely. Influences of other people, right? Sorry? Pursuit of pleasure. Yeah, very good. Not want to be committed. Careers. Can a career do that to you? Prestige. Success. And there's countless of things that can keep us from choosing to follow God wholeheartedly, to make ourselves limp between choosing. What was their response to all this? Nothing. Nothing at all. No accountability, no defense, no commitment, no nothing. No words whatsoever. Very interesting. So, Elijah, being outnumbered but certainly not outgunned, says, we're gonna have this contest. You know, there's 450 of you versus me. You should have an easier time invoking your God on this high place. So we're going to have this contest on Baal's home turf. That to me that's interesting. If you ever hear some people in a tense conversation or on a movie or whatever, and they say anytime, any place, just tell me where you're at. I'll come to your house, and we'll have this contest. So they cut 2 bulls in pieces, one offered to Baal, one offered to God. The God who answers by fire, he is God. The rules are agreed upon. To me, that's important. They said, okay, this sounds good. This sounds good. We'll take this and we'll run with it. You go first. Elijah says, you go first. He has a lot of confidence in God, which he should. You go first. You call upon the name of your God, but put no fire to it. Elijah knew this was going to be a spectacle, right? He had the confidence of the one true God. The drought was only going to end by Elijah praying to God. And from morning to noon, from daybreak to midday, O Baal, answer us. No voice, no one answered by fire, and they limped around the altar. Some versions say leap, and they danced. Mocking in a contest. This was kind of funny to me. You ever have a friendly competition with some of your friends? You ever get mouthy with them? You ever start chirping? Start saying some stuff to them? In a friendly competition, maybe talk a little smack. This is not a friendly competition. Cry aloud, for he is God. In verse 27. Maybe he's deep in thought. Maybe he just can't be bothered from this thought he's in. Maybe he's in the bathroom, gone to the bathroom. He's on a trip. Maybe he's asleep. Maybe he needs awakened. Cry louder. Cry more. And cutting themselves until the blood gushed, and they raved until the evening. The intent here was not only to confirm that God is Lord here, but to turn their hearts to show that the power of their uselessness and their idolatrous pursuit. And ask this question: how much time do we spend pursuing those idols, those things that keep us from being fully invested, fully trusting in God? How much time do we spend doing that? Too much. Exactly. How far were these people willing to go to pursue this idol? Physically. What were they doing to themselves? Far enough to cut themselves. I mean, blood gushing. Just, I can't imagine just what a wreck this looked like. What can inhibit our ability to see those idolatrous pursuits? You ever ask yourself the question, if I just had this job, if I just had this car, if I just had this or that or the other? Do you ever ask yourself that question? Would you be happy? Do those thoughts cross our minds sometimes? If I just had this, I'd be happy. I think those things sometimes can hinder us from being fully invested into God. Any thoughts or comments so far? Yes. Let them choose their own bull. Yeah, there may be something there. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I didn't think about that. If the bulls look different or what have you. So, yeah, could be. Could be. Yes, please.
Prophets, I can remember, was cocky.
Yeah, he's got a little swag to him, doesn't he?
Now, you always also said cocky being good.
Right?
When it's cocky because you know it's for God.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need to exactly look at the situation.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I read this, I've read it a few times, I don't fully grasp what is surrounding him right now.
Right.
He is literally one among
Tons.
who have swords, obviously, who take themselves and can easily just slice Elijah in a
Right.
second, and he's mocking me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not one of them just turn just because he's mad and just end him right there, but
Yeah.
he's doing it because of that much faith he has in God. So I think of that, I mean, I really think, man, that's the kind of stock I need to put when I'm willing to. That's what I kind of.
Right.
Just from that section, before we even get to Elijah's next section,
Yeah.
just the faith he's already exhibiting here is unreal.
Yeah. That's really good. We're talking about evangelism, this month, and the confidence we should have when we go out and evangelize to people about God. That's a really, really good point. Anybody else? Uh-huh.
They're going off what they have heard
Right.
and all that they know.
Mm-hmm.
He comes along and shows them,
Yeah.
still this day, there are people.
Yeah. We don't know. He's going to show them who the true God is in just a few moments. Yeah. Good point, Rodney. Thank you. Someone could read 30 through 35, please.
And Elijah said unto all the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. And he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the 12 sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. He made a trench about the altar, as great as it would contain 2 measures of seeds. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice, and on the wood. And he said, Do it the second time. And they did it the second time. He said, Do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water.
Thank you. Come unto me. Repair the altar. This is the $1 million question. And I have no answer to this, and I've asked people who are way smarter than me. Where did this altar come from? Who built the first one that was on Mount Carmel? We know. There's so many different thoughts about there. Does anybody have any thoughts about who it would have been?
I read something, of course, this comes from a Jewish source saying
Mm-hmm.
the Midrash says that Saul had built an altar
Saul built an altar on Mount Carmel.
and that later evil kings of Israel later had torn down all those altars
Yeah.
and built false idol
False idols.
altars. Extra biblical sources.
Right. Someone put it there, and someone tore it down. Just some things that Kyle and I were talking about. Maybe it was set up as a memorial. We have some examples of people that set up altars as memorials. Could have been that. Joshua set up one when they crossed over the river. So it was interesting. I spent way too much time chasing this rabbit. I didn't. I should have asked you, Jonathan. You found that pretty quick. But who put it there and who tore it down? Thank you for that. So he rebuilds the altar. He takes 12 stones of the 12 tribes and he makes a trench. That's held 2 seahs of a seed. From my research, a seah is 1.5 gallons. The trench was 1.5 feet by 1 feet by 1 feet, 1 foot by 1 foot. So around this trench, he puts the bull on the altar. But he's not just going to do that, right? He's going to take it to another level. There's a commercial in 1993 of Michael Jordan and Larry Bird having a shooting contest. So it's a McDonald's commercial. So Larry's in the gym and he's shooting ball, and Michael comes in and Larry says, "What you got in the bag?" He's got a McDonald's bag. He's got a Big Mac and fries. I'm fairly confident Michael Jordan probably never ate a Big Mac or fries, but he got paid a lot of money to advertise this. So Larry Bird says, "I'll shoot you for it. I'll shoot. First one to miss, wins the food or whatever." And they go through these ridiculous looking show. They were in the rafters. At one point, they were across the street on a skyscraper, and he bounces off the road and off. I mean, it was ridiculous. But that's what Elijah's going to do here. He's going to take it to another level. Get 12 jars of water, 4 jars 3 different times. We're gonna make this. We're gonna wet this altar, and we're gonna make this an impossible feat, so to speak. So he puts the water on the altar.
You know, in my mind, as he's building this,
Mm-hmm.
he's
Yeah.
going just slowly,
Right.
building up to this.
Yeah, he wasn't a young guy, was he? But I mean, if one person building an altar, you're right. That's a good point. I haven't thought about that, taking this time, and everybody's just kind of watching him. 400 and 850 people plus, we got, and Ahab and all those people. So, yeah, that's a really, really good point. Any comments or questions on any of that?
Interesting thing in the next chapter, the altar,
Mm-hmm.
another altar.
In 19, yeah.
Who had, as far as who had torn the altars of the Lord down throughout the land.
Yeah.
It was God's own people.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. It doesn't matter who tore it down. The fact of the matter is it wasn't being used, was it, at all? Kevin Henry, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the fact that he's rebuilding it in front of them
Mm-hmm.
showed them that there was trickery, no
Yeah,
extra, hey, this is
yeah.
sliding some, I don't know, lighter fluid.
Right. There's no sleight of hand in all this, right? Yeah, excellent point. Very, very good. 36 through 40, if someone could read that for me, please.
And to pass, at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, Elijah the prophet came here and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and I am your servant, that I have done all these things at your word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that you are the Lord God, and that you have turned their hearts back to you again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and it licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, The Lord, He is God, the Lord, He is God. And Elijah said to them, Seize the prophets of Baal, do not let one of them escape. So they seized them. Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and executed.
Thank you. Turn your hearts back to God. The way this reads, and I've had conversations with people, it seems like this has already taken place before the fire fell. I don't know. They obviously didn't stay that way because in 19 we read they kind of go off the rails again. But that's interesting. It seems if that's what happened, 3.5 years of a drought, seeing this spectacle take place from daybreak until whatever time it is now. Well, it's probably close to getting dark. So we're looking at 6-8 hours of this going on. Their confidence in Baal had to be wavering, especially, no question they've been offering for 3.5 years, or trying to pursue him to send rain. So their hearts seem to be turning back to God, and Elijah's praying that they will understand and know that this is going to happen through God, through all this. So, any comments about that section before we move on? It's a wonderful picture of grace here, isn't it? In Ephesians 2, 4 and 5, it's by grace you have been saved. Ephesians 2, verse 8, for grace you've been saved through faith is not of your own doing, it's a gift from God. How easy would it have been for God just to start over with this and just kill everybody right here? Or let a generation die out. He's done that before, hasn't he? Yet he decides to extend grace to them by rebuilding this altar, giving them a chance to turn back to him. Any thoughts? It's interesting to see the contrast between the two approaches here. Prophets of Baal are physically harming themselves. They are increasing in volume. We have examples of people who have cried out to God. David did that, and Peter did that in the ocean. But they seem to continue to get louder and louder and louder. The people we talk about, like Paul or David and Peter, they started out crying. They were so moved to grief or fear that they cried out initially. These people spent hours and hours and hours of cutting themselves and limping around this altar to get Baal to respond. Elijah simply prays. O Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known you are the God of Israel, that this people may know that you are God, that you have turned their hearts back. What qualities does the power of a righteous person, what qualities does the prayer of a righteous person have? James 5:16. Does it have power? Actual power, great power. What did Elijah pray for? James 5:17 and 18. If someone could read that for me, please.
Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed earnestly that it would not rain. It did not rain in the land for 3 years and 6 months. He prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth produced its fruit.
Thank you. So he prayed for it not to rain. 3.5 years passed, and he prayed for it to rain, and the rain fell. Fire fell, and it consumed everything. Verse 38. What was their reaction? They fell on their faces, and they worshiped God. He is the Lord. He is God. Seized the prophets and let them not escape, and they took them down to the Kishon River, which is an important thing that we talked about at the beginning, and they slaughtered them. From my research, I think I have it in the slides here, this is a 17-mile trek down to this river, 17 to 20 miles. Can you imagine what's going through the prophets of Baal's minds as they're being led down this path with these people on fire for God for a moment? Why'd they slaughter them? May know? Why kill them? Yes, Miss Ree. Little leaven leavens the whole flock. Were they commanded to do that? That's a good question. I guess I should ask it that. Were they commanded to do that in the Old Testament? I don't know. They could have been. Someone read Deuteronomy 13 as to why, 1 through 5, as to why they slaughtered them. Well, it's up here. I'll read it. If a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder that tells you come to pass, and he says, let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them. You shall not listen to the words of the prophet or the dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love God, the Lord, with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and hold fast to him. But the prophet or the dreamer of dreams you shall put to death, because he has taught rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of slavery, to make you leave the way in which the Lord your God commanded you to walk. So you shall purge this evil from your midst. They are commanded to get rid of this evil. They did that same thing to Achan when he stole everything. They wanted to purge that completely from them. So they were commanded to slaughter these men. So, yeah, they could have been, Miss Carol, I didn't think about it. They could have been praying on the way down there for 17 miles. That's a long trip. It's a long trip knowing what your fate's about to be.
At Mount Sinai, when Moses came down, and
The calf.
and it opened up.
The calf, yeah, there was the,
Opened up and
yeah, when they came down, the calf was being worshipped. The Levites were very, very fired up for that, and they killed a bunch of people. Yes, ma'am. You're right. Let's see, 41 through 46, if we have enough time, please. Someone read that.
Now Elijah said to Ahab, go up, eat, and drink, for there is the sound of the roar of a heavy shower. So Ahab went up to eat and drink. Elijah went up to the top of Carmel, crouched down to the earth, put his face between his knees. He said to his servant, go up now, look toward the sea. So he went up and looked and said, there is nothing. He said, go back 7 times. It came about at the 7th time that he said, behold, a cloud as small as a man's hand is coming up from the sea. He said, go up and say to Ahab, prepare your chariot and go down, so that the heavy shower does not stop. about in a little while that the sky grew black, with clouds and wind, there was a heavy shower. Ahab rose and went to Jezreel. The hand of the Lord was on Elijah. He girded up his loins and outran Ahab to Jezreel.
Thank you. So he sends Ahab to go up to eat. Ahab is during this execution of the prophets, he's powerless to do anything. Eat and drink. Again, 17 miles from Carmel to Jezreel Valley. I don't know how fast horses travel as an average, but 17 miles, that takes a while to get there, but he encourages him to go. Elijah goes up to pray on behalf of these people. That's fascinating to me. On behalf of these people that have just, completely rejected the Lord, he goes up and prays on behalf of them. Does Elijah stop praying if the answer's not, if the rain's not there the first time? No, he continues to pray, and he sends his servant up to see what's happening. Now, let me get to this, because I know Tim's getting ready to do this. So this is the view of the highest point on Mount Carmel all the way out to the sea. Can you imagine what this young man saw, this servant of Elijah, while he's looking out there and seeing this cloud come up? I tried to put a cloud here, but it looked kind of hokey, so I didn't go through with that. But just and this obviously wouldn't have been here. All this stuff wouldn't have been here. Just vegetation and just seeing a huge cloud coming up from the sea would have been a fascinating sight. So, are we done? Or am I? No? Okay. Okay. Just some thoughts about here. Just some applications. Sometimes we have trouble choosing who to follow. This is a good thing for us to read. Is our heart fully dedicated to God? Where do we put our reliance? Do we worship empty idols that provide us maybe momentarily happiness, but not happiness for our souls? Even the worst of sinners, Ahab had a chance to repent. He had a chance to turn back, and he didn't. He spared a little longer, killed in battle. God is always patient with us. We're always there. As long as we're alive, we have a chance to redeem ourselves from things. Thank you all for your comments, and appreciate it very much.